podcast. Our aim is to encourage young people to learn more about the science, technology, engineering, arts and maths sectors and smash stereotypes by listening to workers from a variety of jobs.
Our digital leader hosts today are myself, Nathan, Richard, Yasmin and Lee. Today we are joined by Daphne, who's a civil servant. Hi Daphne, how are you today?
Hello, good morning. I'm fine and I hope you are too.
Yeah.
We have a few questions for you today. Can you tell us about your job and how it links to STEAM?
Yes, so as you've already mentioned, I'm a civil servant. So I work for the Department of Health and Social Care. I'm based in London and my job title is Strategic Planning Lead for COVID-19, which means that I do all of our plans for COVID-19 over the past year.
That's really interesting. What or who inspired you to apply for this job?
So I started off my career as a scientist, and then because I really wanted to make a difference and to actually make changes in the real world, I moved to the civil service, and that's what, when COVID-19 came about, I thought that it would be really interesting and I would be able to help even better if I work on COVID-19 planning.
That's amazing and really inspiring.
So, did you always want to be a civil servant?
So when I started off my career, I wanted to work in university, in academia, in research. So I started off like that. So I was a scientist working in a lab doing experiments. But then because I really, really wanted to be able to make changes in, the life that we live on a daily basis, that's when I decided to switch my career and move to the civil service.
So that's quite cool. So at school, did you think you had the confidence or ability to do this job?
So sorry, could you please repeat that?
At school, did you think you had the confidence or ability to do this job?
Oh, so when I was at school, I didn't think that, I didn't think about a career in civil service just yet. I was very keen to become, a scientist, and I studied biology and chemistry to be able to do that. So yes, I felt that I was able to have a career in science for sure. Even though obviously it's not a traditional career choice for girls. But as I grew older, it became more and more obvious to me that I definitely have what it needs to become a scientist.
What are your skills are important to doing your job?
So it's very important to get to know people and what skills they have, so networking as we call it. And it's also very, very important to be able to communicate well so that you understand, what each person wants to achieve from what we're trying to do in planning. And I think it's also really important to learn how to use evidence, so information from different sources, and use it in a critical way. So think about how accurate this information is. So, especially for something like COVID-19, it has been really important to separate the facts from the fiction and from all the misinformation that has been going out there.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What do you like most about being a civil servant?
So what I really, really like is the impact that I'm making on our daily life, because I can see that the decisions I make today are on the news tomorrow or the day after. And, this COVID-19 so far has been quite challenging, but also a big success with the vaccines. So it has been really rewarding for me to see that I have been a part of that.
That's nice. Are there any stereotypes in your area of work?
So that is a really good question, and it's an important one to ask before you consider career choices in general. So I am very fortunate that in the civil service, there are no stereotypes that are negative. There are only good role models. So, there are loads of women who are scientists and who became civil servants. But if I can share it with you, when I was a scientist back in academia, there were unfortunately a lot of negative stereotypes. So a lot of women felt pressured that they don't belong in science. And that's why part of why I volunteer for, these STEM ambassador roles is to help girls in particular, but also, girls and boys to understand that they can become a scientist, and it is definitely something they can pursue no matter their background and their, whether they're a boy or a girl.
Interesting. What advice or tips would you give to young people who are thinking of a job in the STEAM industry?
So that's another really, really good question. I think that, being at my age now, when I think back about when I was a younger version of myself, what I would like to hear is to not be afraid to try different things, because we don't only learn from successes. We mostly learn from failures, or what we perceive as failures at the time. So, as I mentioned, I changed career twice now, and I have found it really rewarding, because I realized that you develop skills along the way, and from the things you learn, that you can use as you move in life and as you move from one job to the next. So my strong advice is, just be brave, try things, and if they work out, great. But if they don't work out, even greater, because you can learn from them and, change. So it's great. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Thank you, Daphne, for telling us all about being a civil servant. It was really interesting to hear all about it. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast.